North Texas Buckskin Brigaders. We're found some more plants here to do another plant of the day here on the Warren Ranch for you guys. So we're going to give a little brief plant of the day, and then we're going to talk a little bit about starting your own plant collection, because we've been talking a lot about plants and doing some plant ID. So if y'all would like to, build your own plant collection, that's another great activity that y'all can do on your own that can help you teach yourself a lot about the plants in your area and the wildlife habitat. So we've got one down here. It's a fairly small and low growing, but we've got there's quite a bit of it around, and it's a pretty good deer plant. So we're going to dig it up, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So that's actually a pretty good cross section right there. This plant is called Bladder Pod Cida, and this is actually a pretty good cross section. You can see the size of the root that this plant grows, and as we've been saying all week, it's been pretty dry this summer, and if you've noticed, all the forbs that we've dug out of the ground have a very robust root system, and that's very critical for plants. And when you're talking about deer habitat, is to have a variety of these deep-rooted perennial plants, because they can put down roots and they can access deep soil moisture, and they have energy reserves for when it gets dry. They're built to survive tough times and drought times. So just by the way they're designed, they can handle some dry weather. So this plant, like I said, Bladder Pod Cida. It's got the wavy leaf margins there. They're fairly hairy on the underside. It spreads along the ground, and it makes it's called Bladder Pod Cida because of the seed pod that it makes. It'll make a yellow flower, and then there's a pod just starting right there. So it's not very far along yet. It's fairly immature, but that's you'll see those. That's an identifying characteristic of that. But anyway, that's one plant of the day, and then we've got another one over here, good deer plant, and we'll dig it out of the ground real quick and bring it over there to you. And Maryann will talk a little bit about this one.
Okay, so our next plant is hairy Tubeton, and you can probably barely see it on the camera, but it gets its name from all the little hairs that go all the way down the stem and on the leaves. The leaves alternate, so it'll have two leaves all the way down the stem. They go back and forth there, and then they alternate there, and they have two on each side. And then the flower will have three on one side, and then the one, kind of like where it got its name from the tongue, will go down that way. And it has little white marks in the center. But it's very playable for deer. It'll probably grow typically around 2 to 6 inches, but they do get taller, probably all the way up to like 12 to 14 inches. But yeah, overall it's a good playable plant for deer. And so now we're going to talk a little bit more about plant collection.
All right, so you see we've got our cooler behind us here, and when you're going out and digging plants in the field, if you're wanting to press them later on, that could be an issue, especially in the hot, dry summertime, because you dig a plant, and then before you get it back to wherever you're going, if you don't have a plant press with you, and you can't press them right there, then the time you get back to where you're going, like, they're all wilty and dead, and you have no identifying characteristics left of them, especially flowers. Flowers are very hard to press and keep, the identifying characteristics about them. So if you want to do something like this on yourself and you've got your shovel and your clippers and you head to the field, this is the way we typically do it. You just get a regular cooler and just put a little ice in the bottom of it, so we're keeping things cool and damp. And say we've got a trash bag in it to keep our plants out of the water and the ice melt. You can put a wet paper towel in the trash bag. Sometimes helps to keep the leaves from getting all wilty and soggy looking. And then, you know, just keep them, put them down in your bag, and then just keep them cool while you're out collecting. And then when you get back to where you're going, you know, you can start doing your own pressing, and we'll cover a little bit more of that later. And our code word for this particular plant of the day is forb. Hey everybody, we're back at the lodge at the Warren Ranch, and we're going to continue on our little talk about pressing plants and building a plant collection. Now, you know, there's a lot of different reasons why, you know, we would build a plant collection. You know, it's to build kind of an inventory of whatever property we're talking about. If we want to dig plants and press plants for whatever it is that for the place that we're working on, is to share information about plants, dig a bunch of plants, press them, and then you have specimens that are very well preserved that you can spread around for knowledge and comparison, and for other people to learn and study from. You know, not everybody has the opportunity to get out on some big open country and learn about the plants in native habitat, so you can press plants as a method of sharing information and for education. Historically, originally, you know, the only way we had to do that was to go out and dig plants and actually physically press them. So you can build your own plant press, and this is a pretty poor example, but this is one that I literally just made out of the junk pile. It's you know, a piece of plywood that I just chopped up and cut some corrugated cardboard out of cardboard boxes and some thrifty nickel newspapers, and then just cinch everything down with a ratchet strap you can get from Tractor Supply. Just a little bit about that process. You know, we have the hardboard right here, the outer part that does the pressing, and corrugated cardboard. That's you know, that is used to press, because if you look at the cross section of a piece of corrugated cardboard, you have space for airflow in here. And getting plants pressed and getting them to dry quickly is important, because there are some, you can actually mold your plant presses if they don't get pressed flat and dried out fast enough. So that allows some airflow around the plants that you're pressing to get them dried out. And then you've got here, okay, here I just used a paper sack between the cardboard to press. But paper sack, you know, most gas stations or Walmarts have a stack of thrifty nickels as you walk out the door for free. Or if you have a stack of morning papers from 10 years ago that you don't know what to do with and you're never going to read again, you know, that goes, you place your plant between 2 layers of newspaper, then cover it with the cardboard, and then you know, the hardboard on either side of the plant press, and then you just cinch it down and let it dry for a week, 2 weeks. I've got some that have been in this plant press for quite some time just because I haven't had time to take them out and mount them on paper. But then you take them out, you glue them, mount them on paper, you can stick a label on them of whatever information you want on there, and then you started your own plant collection. So, you know, that's the way it's been done since people started pressing plants in some form or fashion, or pressing them in a book. But, you know, now we have the option of digital technology, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about here now. So, Barry, I guess if you want to discuss the scanner a little bit, we can go from there.
Yeah, so we've kind of moved on, like Matt said, so now it's gone a little bit more digitally. So we actually have the availability now. If you just have a simple scanner, printer type thing, it doesn't even, have to be the best one in the store, but pretty much any scanner will work because you can adjust the settings for the resolution and everything on your computer. So just like any type of computer with the scan app or feature, you can scan your plants now on the printer. So that makes it a lot better for the most part, because instead of having to wait 2 weeks, you can get it instantly through the scanner. And then you can have a digital template or PowerPoint slides for your ranch or for your plant collection, just even that you're working on, to go through, and you can pull up all those plants in one place on your computer wherever you are. So it's definitely a little bit more technologically advanced and convenient for the most part. But earlier we were collecting the 2 plants in the field. So we got the hairy tubetongue and the Bladder Pod Cida. So this is the Bladder Pod Cida. So next we would bring it back after we got it out of our cooler, which we had iced down. That way the plants didn't, wilt or anything while we didn't have them here. So then you would get your scanner, and typically whenever you're scanning a plant, sometimes we will cut the root off and place it in one corner of the plant scanner. That way you still get, because the roots a lot of time will help identify for some people, so they're a good identifying factor as well. So you can cut the root off and place it in a corner of your scanner, and then we will take a leaf off of one section and then face down. That way you get a view of the back side and the front side of the leaf. So we'll face it one way, and then we'll put the rest of the plant down. Now, typically, if it's a real bushy plant, or it's a plant with a lot of leaves, or it just gets a lot of jumbled up sometimes whenever you go to scan it. So if we were to scan this plant, a lot of it would lay over and you couldn't get a clear view because it'd look, more like this on the background. So sometimes we'll go through and, just break off a couple stems just to clean the plant up a little bit. I can go ahead and do that with this one. And then it will lay a little flatter on your plant scanner. So now instead of everything being blurred behind here, we can just lay it down here, and you can kind of adjust your leaves and make it lay out how you want to. That way you get a view of the leaves, you get a view, if there was a flower, you could fix the flower face down, because it does scan from the bottom. So fix your flower face down, lay it out all nice, and then you can go back to your computer and click scan. Typically though, whenever you are scanning, you can't really use this as like a level. You don't want a whole lot of light to be protruding from the sides of the scanner. So instead of using the top of your scanner to hold down the plant whenever it's scanning, we'll typically use a piece of like white foam, or like memory foam, or just, for instance, a white towel works as well. So you can just lay that on there, hold that down, click scan, and then it'll scan. And typically it'll turn out something a little like this. So then you have your root here, and this is the Bladder Pod Cida. So you have your root down here at the bottom where you trimmed it up. You have your back side of the leaf, and then you have other variations of the leaf as well. So.
All right, well, we hope this has given you all some ideas of things you can do at home to learn about plants and wildlife habitat, and we will have some more videos for y'all as we continue virtual camp. So thanks again, guys.